welcome to the September 3rd work session of the Rutherford County School Board. I would like to call this meeting to order, and the first item up for business is the Pledge of Allegiance. The pledge will be led by Dawn Williams' granddaughter, Lydia.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we have our moment of silence, I just would like to say one small thing. She did great, by the way. I'm honored and humbled to serve as chairman of the Rutherford County School Board, and I promise to work hard to represent this board in the best way possible and be fair to all. I ask for a bit of grace in the coming weeks as I try and get my footing, and as we as a board come together with the addition of 2 new board members. Together, I know we can accomplish great things for our students and our district. I'd like us to take a moment of silence, please. Thank you. First up, we have the consent agenda. Sorry, approval of the agenda. Any questions? Give you all time to look it over.
Madam Chairman, if you don't mind, just since we have 2 new board members, first, congratulations, Ms. Maxwell, Mr. Rosales, and then Mr. Vaughn and Mr. Vaught for being elected, and then also for Ms. Maxwell, and I think Mr. Tidwell, you were left off earlier, so congratulations for being re-elected as well. So look forward to serving with all of you. When you are looking at the agenda for our staff, they have to have items added to the agenda at least 2 weeks before the meeting. For a board member, any board member can add anything to the agenda that they wish to be added. So each district is a little bit different. Our policy for the agenda allows anything to be added. We ask for those to be into Dawn Williams' office. Is it a week before the meeting? Is that correct for board members? It's a week before the meeting. That way we can add it to the agenda and have it published before the work session. But staff is a full 2 weeks so that we have time to get all the information we need. So just wanted a quick clarification on how things get added to the agenda.
Can I ask a question just about that? The retro applications that show up on here, do we allow people to go ahead and do whatever they're planning on doing without the retro? Means that everything's not in yet. Does that? I just wonder about how are we exposed from a liability standpoint if we allow them to go ahead and do things and.
Thank you for the question. So typically the organizations that we approve retroactively are ones that we have worked with in the past, that we have already established relationships with. Sometimes it happens that they are just not able to get us all the information that we need before the deadline to publish for the board agendas. So typically those are people that we've worked with. We know they have the insurance. We know they have treated our facilities well, and so that's when we do the retroactive review.
It just seems like to me that we're pretty well in a libelous situation if something severe were to happen, and we're in that transition and they don't have everything and they hadn't been really approved. When you get into lawsuits and lawyers, nothing against Mr. Reed, but you know, it's just, I don't know, it's just like we're exposed. To me, it seems like in those situations, I'd really like to see us just, until they get everything approved in the end, just not be allowed to do it. It would just, I think, help protect us from a liability standpoint.
And we're happy to do that, Mr. Vaughn, at whatever the will of the board, and Dr. Sullivan, if that is the directive for our office, no longer to approve retroactive reviews, they all have to be in within the time allotted. We are happy to do that. You just let us know.
We'll discuss that at later time.
So would you like to move on to the agenda?
Yeah, so then we have the consent agenda portion for fees, as Mr. Vaughn just talked about. Most of them either have a fee or you have some that say fees are waived, and that aligns with policy 3.206. And so if fees are waived, that goes with policy 3.206. In the future, we're going to ask to look at that policy during a policy committee meeting to make sure that we're all in agreement on what needs to have fees and what doesn't need to have fees. And then the next big portion you're always going to see are a large list of salary supplements. So if we're looking at D, salary supplements and contract payments, these are all school system employees for the most part, or they have gone through a hiring process with background checks. You'll see a not to exceed amount beside their name, and then these are funded by the schools in their individual accounts. So these are not at a cost to the school system. Ones that you will see as we get into, if you'll flip over to page 6, that has name for non-faculty members, you're going to notice throughout the year quite a few that say junior pro, and they're all connected to Eagleville. Eagleville runs our county recreation program for junior pro. The county rec director, Joey Reed, actually works at Eagleville, so it's easier for all those funds to run through their books instead of splitting them up at each of the individual schools that host it. So when you're looking at this, Eagleville does not have a monopoly on all junior pro and who gets to get those stipends. Everything just happens to run through their books. Then you will notice non-faculty coaches, and these are under E. These are volunteer coaches that, again, they have to go through our vetting process. They have to have a background check, be fingerprinted, all of those different types of things before they actually get added to the agenda to approve. So,
Can I ask another question? Just, I don't know, I'm sure a lot of coaches and stuff like that, football, you know, I know that the high-profile programs have quite a few coaches. Is there any limit, do we have any limitation, or is it just depending on how much money they raise and how many they can afford?
it is, and it's up to all of those. Several years ago, it's probably been a decade at this point, how much the funds were didn't always come before the school board, and so now all funds given to the coaches come before the school board for you to see. It won't be out of line for you to see, and I don't notice any of them today, but along with athletic coaches, but some of our fine arts people have $20,000 and $25,000 that they're paid for out of school funds for these things as well.
I guess I'm a little bit concerned about some of the schools that don't have the funds. You know, that's,
Any questions regarding the, moving on to the agenda itself? Okay. We don't have any
No public
speakers?
comment.
No public comment? Guest speakers, we have Shelby Smith. Is she here today?
I believe so.
Shelby Smith with
Yes.
Middle Tennessee Electric.
Thank you so much for allowing us a few minutes of your time, and thank you for your effort and energy on the Rutherford County School Board. So we are here tonight. Bess and I are both former public educators ourselves, and we have begun our talents at Middle Tennessee Electric, which was founded in 1936, and I know many of you in this room are actually members of MTE, so we thank you for that. But we were founded on 7 principles, and one of those is care for our community, which is what brings us here tonight. Middle Tennessee Electric offers many outreach programs in the education field, and I just want to tell you a little bit about some early elementary to start us off with. So TreeWise is one of our popular programs that takes place in the spring. Middle Tennessee Electric and our vegetation management department kind of take care of that for us, but we have certified arborists that go out into the classroom, teach about the importance of trees, but how that aligns for us is planting those trees in the right places so they don't become problems for our energy grid down the road. Every student takes home a sapling, so there's some parental involvement, and they go home and they figure out where they want to plant their tree in their yard. The next one, we have a couple of read-aloud books, so we tie in some literacy skills, but we have conversation-style read-alouds that explain how electricity works at a grade level appropriate way. Students will see firsthand the equipment that linemen wear and how PPE comes into play to keep them safe in the workforce. Moving on into elementary, we have a couple of programs that are standards-based. So our basic electricity hits 3rd and 4th grade science standards. We'll talk about electrons, we'll talk about circuits, grounding, and then they will see a hair-raising demonstration using the Van de Graaff machine, which everyone loves. We also have an electric safety demonstration table that we'll bring into the classroom where we'll actually show live wires, so they'll get tips on how to use electricity safely, but then we'll also go into depth about how electricity is generated and then transmitted into their home, so they'll really get kind of a full understanding of how electricity works. In the middle school and high school level, we have one program for 6th grade science standards, and that's thermal energy. So we'll use infrared imaging cameras, and we'll also explain to them how that is used in the MTE world, where we take those into homes, and that's where our energy audits are. So we'll actually show them how we can save families money on their monthly electric bill using thermal energy. We have STEM grant opportunities through TVA, which I brought a few handouts today that I will leave outside. So if I have any teachers in the room that are interested in that STEM grant, the deadline is September 15th, so it's fastly approaching, but I'll leave that outside for you to grab. We'd love to be a part of career fairs that are happening at the middle and high school levels, so please invite us out for those. Elementary, they'll probably call touch-a-truck events, so we'd love to bring a bucket truck out. And then lastly, for me, 4-H electric camp takes place every summer, and Middle Tennessee Electric offers multiple scholarships for Rutherford County students to make that accessible to them. I'm going to hand it over to Bess, and she's going to talk a little bit more about the Washington Youth Tour.
Thank you. I'm Bess Nordgren, and I've recently retired from over 30 years of teaching high school English, and now I work with MTE, and my job is to promote the Washington Youth Tour. It starts as it's open to all juniors, and students are eligible to win an all-expense-paid trip, including travel, meals, everything to Washington, D.C. It starts with 900 words or less. We give you a prompt, and we ask the students to write a creative short story. And the teachers are always excited about whose is the best, because it's often not the best students, because they get to come out with their creativity. And so it's really, really neat. Next. Every school, each school that participates will have 2 winners. Each school, not the district, but each school will have 2 winners, and those winners both receive $100, and then they are entered into the next round. And in addition, we give all the participating teachers a gift. After that, we take all the essays from all the schools, and we select the top 18, and those students go to Washington, D.C. to meet students from all over America and learn about our government. I won this many years ago from my little small town in South Alabama. Many years ago. Suffice to say, Jimmy Carter was the president. So if there's a wheelchair, feel free to go get it for me, I know. But I'm from a very small town, and we didn't have networking and social media, and so when I graduated and went on to Auburn, and when I got to Auburn, I saw these people that I had met up there. So it's a really neat way to network with people and to sightsee and to see how our government works. So after that, we have more opportunities. There are more scholarships. Tennessee Electric will give a $1,000, $2,000, and $3,000 scholarship for the top essays in the state, and then there are all these other additional things that we have for up to $10,000 scholarships. Now, let's brag on Rutherford County. Way to go. 7 of Rutherford County schools participated. There were 14 school winners, and of the 18 winners that we took to DC, 7 were from your county. So that is very impressive. And the overall essay contest winner was also from your county for our area. I did get to go into several schools and had more scheduled, but then the snow happened. So next, my goal is to make sure that every student that's a junior at Rutherford County gets this opportunity and actually understands it, because like last year, the prompt was Tennessee Co-ops Connect. Well, you can imagine their first question was, what's a co-op? And their second question is, what are they connected? And so if I can go in and do my little, like I used to teach with brainstorming and a little post-it notes up on the board and all that stuff, and then I go, hey, y'all, we just kind of wrote your thing for you here. So I just want to make sure that I'm doing my job to get with all the high schools in the area. Dr. Sullivan, your schools are to be commended. Thank them for responding to my emails. I know how emails get. We get too many. And so I hope to get into all the schools soon and present. I already have a few scheduled, and they're all in Rutherford County. Is that it?
Yes, so again, I'd just like to thank you for your time. Our ask of the board tonight is if you can help encourage teachers to take advantage of the programs that Middle Tennessee Electric has to offer. We would love the opportunity to get out, educate our members, and especially our students. So thank you so much. Our information is on the screen. If anybody has questions that we can follow up with, please let us know.
Thank you both for coming. Those programs sound amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Number 8.
Rutherford Proud, we will do this on Thursday, but just so everyone knows, this is in recognition of our Grow Your Own Teacher graduates. In the spring of 2023, 42 paraprofessional apprentices were given the opportunity to gain licensure and a master's degree through a partnership between RCS and Lipscomb University's Grow Your Own program. Over the past 2 years, these apprentices transitioned from educational assistants to teachers of record, helping RCS fill many of our special education and ESL positions. And again, we'll recognize them on Thursday.
Number 9.
Number 9 is the Sullivan Family Scholarship. So I discussed this about a year and a half ago to honor Declan in his fight with leukemia. Of course, that's taken on a different meaning now with the loss of our son Asher, and so I doubt my family will be here to give that. It'll probably just be me discussing it, but we have all 3 of our honorees coming to receive that, and that is not from any funding gained through anything from raising money for Asher. That's just personal, something that I do out of my contract. So that will be Thursday.
Very special.
Very good.
Thank you. Number 10, legal.
All right, so these are something that we have just about every board meeting, if not every board meeting. Prior to 2022, the board would have out-of-county transfer students on the consent agenda, and there wasn't a lot of discussion around whether or not students should be accepted or not accepted based on the offenses. And so those have been pulled out since Ms. Sharp and I at that time pulled those out, and we started looking at each one of these individually, making a recommendation. So you're going to see 2 things every time we have out-of-county transfer student. You're going to see the director of schools recommendation, but then as a board, you have the option to do, as always, anything that you feel fit. So you're not tied to my recommendation. The other part is you have a manila folder in front of you that has all the information. Ms. Ridley, our general counsel, will email you usually the Friday before the board meeting and the work session with all that information as well. So you have a digital copy, and then she's able to answer any questions. We normally can't answer questions when these are being live streamed because it involves confidential information. So if you have questions, please check with Ms. Ridley beforehand. So that gets us to our first one, out-of-county transfer student number 1, and it's notated by number 1 in your packet. The board's been requested to admit a transfer student from another school system under discipline. The student is remanded for fighting, possession, use of drugs. According to policy 6.318, the board may deny admissions of any student except those in state custody when a student transfers from another school system while under suspension or expulsion. Director of schools recommendations to deny in this one. And again, if you have any questions, let Ms. Ridley know. Number 2, the board's been requested to admit a transfer student from another school system under discipline. Student was expelled for making a mass threat on social media. According to policy 6.318, the board may deny admissions of any student except those in state custody when a student transfers from another school system while under suspension or expulsion. And director of schools recommendation is to deny in this situation. Number 3 is board's been requested to admit a transfer student from another school system under discipline. This student was expelled for participating in a group fight. According to policy 6.318, the board may deny admissions of any student except those in state custody when a student transfers from another school system while under suspension or expulsion. And again, in this situation, director of schools recommendation is to deny. Usually it'll say deny, accept, or accept and place an alternative school.
Number 11, human resources.
This is a yearly memorandum of agreement between Rutherford County Board of Education and STARS Nashville 2425. STARS agrees to provide student assistance services, SAP, and Enhanced Student Assistance Program, ESAP services. I had all my notes in front of me. Let me see what I did with them. I got so many papers. Give me just a second. All right, so here's where we are with STARS, and so I'll just read you a little bit of an update. The STARS Enhanced School Assistance Program is a school-based mental health treatment program. It was created in 2016 to serve the needs of students seeking a higher level of support than STARS typically had provided through a traditional student assistance program. Through ESAP, students in grades K-12 are able to access confidential mental health therapy services on-site in their own school environment during school hours. So who is eligible? It's intended to meet the needs of students who are not eligible to access mental health treatment resources outside of the school. Eligibility is based primarily on the nature and intensity of the students presenting concern and whether there are barriers to accessing similar services in the community. How are referrals done? Typically, they're initiated by school administrators, school counselors, school social workers, or STARS SAP counselors. Students and parents also request to initiate a referral. So here are where our therapists and counselors are. So for our STARS therapists, Smyrna High School is 5 days a week, Rockville High School is 5 days a week, Stewart's Creek High School is 5 days a week, Siegel High School is 4 days a week, and then Central Magnet's 1 day a week. STARS counselors then are at Oakland High School 5 days a week, Riverdale High School 5 days a week, Laverne High School 5 days a week. For funding, STARS therapists were funded through ESSER. Now they're part of a grant, and STARS counselors are GP for consent, because this is always one of the main questions. Parents have to give consent for people to be able to participate. As a school system, we are not mental health providers. That is not what our school psychologists, school counselors, any of those individuals do. It is completely separate. This service is in the school provided by an outside entity that parents have to give permission to be able to participate in. Christine, is there anything that I missed on that? I know you don't want to talk, but.
How long is
Ours is-
STARS? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, excuse me. Ours is a great program. I mean,
Around for a long
they
time.
do a great service, they really do.
And we've had some issues, and when we've had issues with someone, they've addressed it and removed that individual. So all you can ask.
I'm a big proponent of STARS myself.
So is this different from the wellness class, but includes the wellness class?
This would be different, correct, Christine? Sorry, she's shaking her head. Yes.
Okay.
Ms.
Yes,
Maxwell?
that's where we had issues.
Oh, sorry, I thought they were. Can we get a contract of the MOU?
Is it not on there? It should be in tab 3.
It should be in tab
We can
3.
print a copy of it too if you need one. Yeah.
Okay. Is there, in the contract, in the MOU, is there language in there when we're dealing with some of the issues that we encounter? And how some of those things are to be addressed?
I'll go back and review. Do you know off the top of your head? The issue we had at yes. I'll go back and print off everybody a copy for this.
That'll be great. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Darby.
bear with me because I have several questions. Some of the things that are listed on the MOU seem to be kind of a repeat of what our guidance counselors do. So there's just some concern there too, with as much as we're taking time up from their general studies, that we're not repeating the same. Like this says, they'll provide classroom education to educate students about substance misuse, safety and relationships, suicide prevention, mental health awareness, healthy decision-making, and other relevant topics.
As Christine so eagerly goes to the podium,
I'm sorry.
I will say really quickly, this is one thing we have discussed a lot, is the STARS counselors really allow our school counselors to focus on college and career advisement, academic planning, and so those don't overlap as much as you may think. Like, we are not in the mental health providing business, but if you want to clarify some from your counselor lens.
So the STARS therapists, they deal with more one-on-one individual counseling. So those are those students that we as high school counselors see in crisis over and over again. So by having them in our buildings, we are allowed to do more of our academic and college advisement, where if we didn't have a STARS therapist, that would consume a big chunk of our time, and we would not be able to help all of the students that we currently see. Right now, the high school counselor ratio is 1 to 410, and the state recommendation is 1 to 250.
I'm not so much concerned about the one-on-one as much as I am, because it does list in here more than one place that they can conduct group things, which I know was one of the issues we had last year. And I would like, because I read through here and I didn't see anything that spoke specifically to who is kind of overseeing what they are and aren't allowed to teach in a group setting. And that is an issue we had with one of them last year.
When we came, when that issue occurred, STARS gave us their curriculum. They admitted that that counselor went off script, and the principal dealt with it swiftly, our board dealt with it, and STARS dealt with it. So it was easy just to move forward, and the STARS therapist that we got.
My concern becomes more, how do we prevent that from happening again? Because once a student sees things, they can't unsee it. So I would like to see what steps have been put in place differently from the previous MOU to prevent something like that from occurring again.
Now, I have no reason to think that they wouldn't be open to, I mean, as she said, we can put in there some about that we see curriculum, administrators are actively involved in anything that goes before a group. So I think they would be amenable to that.
Another question in here, and Dr. Sullivan, you might be better to speak to this. It's giving them permission to conduct student group evaluations and staff satisfaction surveys, and I'm just concerned about whether those evaluations fall under, I know we have a policy.
If it does, it would all follow under policy of getting parent permission.
I'm sorry?
They'd have to get parent permission for any survey.
Okay. Because it doesn't say that in the MOU either, which is another thing that if we can maybe even just add that verbiage, that has to be there, because right now we're about to sign something that not once in here in that particular thing does it talk about needing parent permission, so.
Ms. Maxwell?
Yeah, go ahead.
Ms. Rosales.
Oh, sorry. Is it possible to get the MOU where it has that language in there, where it does talk about how we're going to deal with issues when a counselor does go off script? And I think as a parent, I will feel better if we were to have preview to the curriculum that has been passed by the district, by you guys, and that has been approved, because even though it was offset, it still kind of left it a little bit questionable. And so I do agree with Ms. Darby that we do need to have some language on the MOU and how we address those concerns, because we want to hold them accountable somehow in that sense.
Kim, we can get with them. Sorry.
I've worked with STARS ever since their inception, and I never had the first minute's trouble with anything. I mean, it was such a phenomenal, they met such a phenomenal need, and the thing about it is, I think in things like this, we need to support them everywhere we can. Because I tell you, without them, there'd be a lot of kids that would just really, really suffer. And, I think we need to do everything we can. And again, we have to cover ourselves from a liability standpoint, but also, on the other hand, to support organizations like STARS that for years, ever since 2016, they've been over backwards to help our kids. And, I hate to see anything negative come up against STARS, because I tell you, the service they give to our kids is just unmatched anywhere. And without them, we'd have a lot of kids that have a whole lot of problems, seriously.
Any other discussion? Yes, Ms. Starr.
I have one last thing about that. I just want to get it all out now so we can address it all for Thursday. At the end of this, it does say that the agreement does not create an employer-employee relationship or allow either party to exercise control or direction over the manner or method by which the other transacts its business affairs or provides its usual services. That's also concerning to me because unless I'm misinterpreting it, it's kind of saying that they're going to do their usual services and we don't have any authority over that. Given last year, that just makes me really uncomfortable. I appreciate what STARS did. Nobody is trying to say it wasn't handled well when we did have an issue, but we're also charged with making sure that our students are safe and not being exposed to things they shouldn't be, so.
It seems like we're just nitpicking things, you know, that don't matter to a hill of beans. I mean, I don't know why these things you mentioned, why they're important. I mean, I just don't.
We can discuss it after the meeting if you like, because I'm sure Dr. Sullivan would rather me not speak publicly about what was shown.
Well, I can tell you from experience, it's just, you know.
I think they do a great job, and since COVID, they've been invaluable to us. I think if we can fix the MOU and get the language right and get where we have we can see everything, I think that will be a good thing for everyone.
Dr. Sullivan?
Yeah.
Okay. So I have been in the classroom, and everybody knows that I'm a substitute teacher, and I've seen a kid in crisis, and you're right. We shouldn't put the burden on the teacher if they don't have the skill sets to deal with a kid. And I'm not going to go into details about a situation that happened a year ago, but I myself couldn't deal with that at all. And I would feel like I would be held liable if I had to deal with that. I think, so if there's a person now inside the building that can handle a kid that's in a crisis, and I'm not talking about I'm talking about serious crisis. The concern is just because we did have that one incident, how do we put it in writing where there is accountability and keep it from happening? And because there's concern there. And so it's how do we come in the middle somehow in figuring out whether it's that accountability piece in the MOU that if someone does go awry, or really it should never happen. So I think that's where I'm at. But I understand about the whole, we need people in there that can handle these crises, because there are crises that can definitely put us in liability. And we need to have people that can handle that with the parental consent as well, because it's protecting the school, protecting the child, and protecting everyone involved. There's got to be some protection there. So
I don't know what the situation was, but it's my understanding it was taken care of. And
it was taken care of. Yeah, it was taken care of.
why are we beating a dead horse?
I will look to get with STARS. I can tell you last year there was discussion, and this is where our previous board members, we've discussed this. The school system is stuck between a rock and a hard place because somehow mental health became political. Our kids need services that our school system can't provide. If a parent is not willing to give those services outside of school, they are going to continue to bring those issues to the school. Whatever the will of the majority of the board is, of course, what we will go with. I definitely understand the concerns that Ms. Darby brought up. And I agree with the points that Mr. Vaughn discussed. They are an invaluable partner. There was enough negativity around this last year that there was discussion that some of our own elected officials at the county commission level almost lost this grant, and so we almost lost these. We lost 2 people through volunteer behavioral health last year, and so if we continue down this road of turning down potential help, our kids are going to be the ones that suffer, and that's my concern.
Point taken.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
You're good. You're totally good. All right, so just to clarify, I think that STARS would be open to these small adjustments, to adjust for MOU for group activities, what that looks like. That was where we had the issue. Need to add parent consent to the MOU. and then just making sure that we have the final say. I think those are all small things that I think they would be. Dr. Chastain, do you think they would be open to something like that? Yeah.
I'm not going to be able
I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong
Yes.
person. I should be looking at you.
I work with them very closely, and they are very open. When we've had issues with therapists or concerns, they've been very adept to meeting our needs and meeting with
Awesome.
principals and counselors. So they are very eager to work and want things to work well with their therapist and their counselors.
And I think that's what we're looking for, is something that works well. So, thank you.
All right, let me get back to where we were.
Two?
I'm just going to the agenda online because I can follow that one. All right, number 2, request for 2 additional nursing staff due to the growing size of our district, increase in number of medically fragile students requiring case management, tracheostomy care, ventilator care, tube feedings, catheterizations, diabetes management. The Health Service Department is requesting 2 new school nurse positions. I will say these are not budgeted currently. We hope to, well, we'll have to go through. They are necessary. We have to have them. We will get direct outcome funding, which last year was about $4 million, that we'll use to shore up some of those things that we have to add throughout the year. And fast growth funding, we don't know anything about because of some other things we've discussed previously of what's included in our count. But I don't know how we operate without these. We just have students who have moved with extreme needs, and we probably need more than this, and so it may come back before you at a different time to add more. But we have Shannon Groom here. If she definitely, we initially went, I said, I can try to find funding for 1, and then I told her Friday after another, I said, we have to have 2. We probably need more than that now, but 2 I feel comfortable with from a funding aspect.
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment about that. You know, you got a fragile student, and say you got a large high school. You know, that student pretty much is going to tie up one of the nurses all the time. And, you know, gosh, I feel for the kids, and, you know, but again, it really limits the nursing staff. And, you know, this is something I feel like we need to support.
I absolutely agree, and I will tell you just from when I was my time working in CDC, our numbers are only increasing, and in a perfect world, I would like to give all the high schools 1 nurse to see just the average students that have colds, whatever, and then a nurse for the medically fragile. Funding isn't there, but in a perfect world, that's where I think we need to be, because our numbers of medically fragile students are only increasing, and they're increasing as our population is increasing as well. I agree with Mr. Vaughn.
Ms. Maxwell? Dr. Sullivan, or maybe Shannon can speak to this. The 2 additional nursing staff, are they for acute nursing, or is it LSN?
No, it's.
Oh, LN, I think I mixed up the acronym, but.
Right now, the 2 that we are asking for, 1 would go to Blackman Elementary. Blackman Elementary has so many medically fragile students that she's not able to do walk-in visits like you were mentioning. Her whole day is consumed with scheduled appointments.
Wow.
We're having similar issues at Rockville High School and Riverdale High School just because of the number of students. Those nurses are also struggling to see walk-in visits because they're so busy with just the scheduled appointments for the tube feedings, the caths, the diabetic visits.
Oh, wow.
So that second one would split time between Rockville and Riverdale. Rockville and Riverdale both each just have 1 registered nurse there.
Okay. Wow.
It is an issue.
And that is where it is hard when the legislature passes laws just strictly on the number of kids. Like Blackman Elementary, for example, by student population has dropped 147 kids since last year, but their needs for medically fragile students have increased. So it's not just a strict student nurse ratio.
Yeah. I have one more question. So do you think, and in your opinion, I know with teachers, because we had hard to fill spots and we open it up to retirees to come back, do you think that should be an option on the table legislatively
to ask retiring nurses that want to work part-time, who have an active license, that are cute, to help with this type of issue as we continue to grow?
We do have a couple of retired nurses that have come back to work as sub-nurses for us. That's what we are using right now to fill these gaps. I have an allotted number of hours that I can use for sub-nurses, so we do have several retired nurses. They retire from Rutherford County Schools. School nursing is such a specialized niche of nursing. You need a lot of training to be the only healthcare professional in the building and be able to make very quick decisions. So we're real hesitant to take people that have not had a lot of training just in school health to step into our schools. But when you start having 2 nurses in a building, then that second nurse definitely could be someone that's coming in.
Okay. I was just curious about your opinion on that. Thank you.
What is, Dr. Sullivan, what's the ratio, the state law ratio for students?
1 to
1 to 750.
1 to 750. I think there was some talk before about going to 500, maybe?
I have no idea how we would fund it. Yes, yes.
If they did that. So is there a way for you to, without recreating the wheel, without creating a bunch of paperwork, for you to put together something that we could take to our legislators and see, hey, this is what we're seeing. You know, we are we talked about nurses before when the pay and everything came up. These are some of the only medical professionals that our students see. And some of our students, if they're diabetic, they may see that nurse 3 times a day to calculate their meds. So is there something that you could give us that's not too much trouble and onerous on your part that we could take to our state reps and say, here's what we're seeing? So we can move them off the needle to supply more nurses.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Sharp. That is very...
You know, people have to understand these fragile students. One event could cost them their life. And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize is these kids that are medically fragile. I mean, they have such severe problems that one event, you know, without the proper care, and it could cost their life.
I'll add one of ours is we are probably within 1 of being to that ratio, 1 or 2 to being to that ratio of 1 to 750. Our issue comes into, we provide a nurse at each campus. And so if you have a school like Daniel McKee or Campus School or McFadden or small schools, rightfully so, have to have a nurse there at all times, but that lowers the ratio because then your big high schools may only have 1.5. And they're well over the ratio, but it's a district ratio.
Yes.
Do you know if there's a way to get the percentage of the medically fragile students in each school? 'Cause I'm wondering if legislatively that might be a good way to kind of tie it in schools that have X% or more of medically fragile students. They would get a state-funded extra nurse, maybe. So do you guys, is there a way to kind of get those percentages?
Yes, I can get that.
Yep, they track everything. Yep.
We have lots of data.
Sounds good. Any more
All right.
discussion? Let's move to instruction.
All right, so number 12, instruction, ESL department. So this is a little bit of sad news. So this is, last year we budgeted for a secretary, administrative assistant for West Brooks Woods. We don't anticipate opening that, and so we would like to move this position to help with the ESL department while we are trying to get that school open or deciding what we're doing with that. So the ESL department does not currently have an administrative assistant serving the fastest growing student population in Rutherford County Schools. We've opened the 24-25 school year with over 800 ELs. Workloads become heavy in the areas of Skyward. Over 800 students needed to be coded, individual learning plans and TN Pulse. Over 400 transfers need to be completed today. And facilitating over 1,000 families that need assistance with registration at our ESL Welcoming Center in Smyrna. A position for the administrative assistant was allocated and budgeted for West Brooks Woods Academy that we would like to transfer to the ESL department for this school year. This would not impact the budget because it would be a transfer of a position. And where this has become even more necessary is that TN Pulse is what we use to enter all of the student information that has to have the individual learning plan for English as a second language students learning English as a second language. And this is directly tied to funding. And so if we don't have this in by a certain period, then we don't get funding for that student, even though we've been serving them. What has been frustrating for us, 2 years in a row, we've had it to where that information has not worked on time from the State Department. Luckily, we have an in with one of our finance director's wives who is over that portion. So we were working with them to make sure that we get that information, and we did get an extension for how many, was it 30 more days? So we have an extension. Last year, our legislators had to get involved to get us an extension. So if we don't get another extension this year, then we will reach out to you all to let you start ringing the phones off the hook, because that is to the tune of, I believe it was $200,000 a day roughly. Does that sound right? $200,000 a day in funding we would lose if this isn't input correctly. It's a huge number with the number of ELs we have.
Any other discussion? Number 13, engineering and construction.
Request for stadium press box lettering at Blackman High School. Principal Justin Smith is requesting to provide and install lettering for the back of the press box at the football stadium. The cost for this project is $7,500. It will be funded by athletic field rental funds. This project is no cost to the board. Engineering and Construction has reviewed the request and has no objection.
Any discussion? 14, contract agreement between MTSU and RCS.
So this is continuing all of our schools going through this in different times and avenues, but MTSU seeks to be an Oakland High School sponsor. MTSU proposes a contract in which MTSU may sponsor activities and place advertising at Oakland High School. MTSU requests permission to place signage, which is detailed in the contract attachment A. MTSU proposes to pay $5,000 per year for 5 years. Contract terms are July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2029. Ms. Ridley, are these the same for every school? The contract terms, I believe they are the amounts. Yep.
I really like that MTSU does this. It's a very nice thing. Any discussion?
It's about time.
Number 15, library book review. And I hope everyone is reading.
So final decisions due by September 19th, 2024 for the following titles. And again, these were challenged under the obscenity law, so the decision needs to be by policy to the board on what to do with these, and any level of actions can be taken at that time.
Any discussion, comment? 16,
Insurance. So a couple things. We had our next meeting today, and Dr. Anthony, you can hit on this, or Brian, whoever wants to. We had our meeting today. We budgeted with about $700,000 roughly of wiggle room this year to be able to incorporate increased costs. Costs are much more than that. It's a little bit over $3 million if we were to take all of that. What we met with the insurance committee, and I will tell you, for employees, we would love to be able to cover all of it. We've talked about this for the last couple of years, is that we have two really scales that we balance. One is percentage raises, and then one is benefits. Our benefits are over $55 million just for this insurance alone that we budget. We're about $54 million, which is 10% of our budget, which is astronomical for a size of our school system. At the same time, we have to hit $50,000 for beginning teachers by 2026. And so our ability to put more towards insurance is limited by our requirement to hit that $50,000 threshold. So I know our insurance committee is meeting right now and doesn't necessarily love the options we've given them, but we've started with this is the most as a district that we can afford. We can afford about to take a 25% or so portion of the whole 100%, and we are still going to have to come back with a budget amendment towards the end of the year and figure out who took what plans and have to put money into it, just like we did last year. But that is about the highest we can cover from the school system while still being able to give that minimum we talked about last year of a 2% raise this coming school year. Sorry if I just stole y'all's thunder. Does that pretty much cover it? I'm not a member of the meeting, but...
You have my thunder, so that's pretty much the whole thing, yes.
You got it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Brian, Brian running for our new board members, and I'll do it during director's update, but we have two Brians. Brian Runian's our chief financial officer, and behind him is our HR director, Brian Sears, and then Dr. Anthony is over HR. So that's the team really working on that.
Any questions? Next is the financial report.
Financial report we'll do Thursday.
Director's update?
I'll do Thursday as well.
Okay, Tennessee Legislative Network update.
You'll have to assign those people.
I'll have to assign, I will. I will get that done promptly. 21, general discussion.
Ms. Maxwell?
Yes.
I just want to say, I just want to welcome personally Mr. Sin and Mr. Butch Vaughn to the board, and really excited to be working with you guys, and I know we're going to do amazing, great things alongside with the chair, Claire Maxwell.
I want to second what Ms. Rosales said. It's look forward to working with you both.
Question.
Yes, Mr. Vaught.
I want to circle back. 15. What is the policy? I have no idea. I've read bits and pieces, but specifically what is the policy? And the director of each library or librarian selecting books. There's got to be a policy.
There is that change on August 8th because of a change in state law. So Dr. Chastain, Mr. Reed, y'all may have to help me on some of this.
Somebody help.
I will. So it's the Age Appropriate Materials Act of 2022, which put in place a way for certain individuals to challenge the appropriateness of a library book.
Sure.
That put in place last year. We had a district library review committee that consisted of board-appointed members in August, I believe is the way the policy set read. And they met, and I believe we had 4 or 5 challenges last year through that. At the same time, there is another state law for anything that involves education. It's Tennessee Code Annotated, and it's Chapter 49 for education. But there's another one in Tennessee Code Annotated 39, which deals with public welfare, and that is under the obscenity law. And so we received challenges under the obscenity law that these books are not to be in school system. And so it was a little bit both avenues of is it age appropriate or is it obscene? And so the policy has been changed this last year to, they updated the Age Appropriateness Act and changed some of the wording with TCA 39, which is the obscenity law. And under that, we have a policy that now, if it is challenged under age appropriate, instead of the district review, it goes to the school level. So the school has an ad hoc committee. They have 30 days to make a decision, recommendation to me, and then the board ultimately has 60 days. Each school, if it's challenged under that age appropriateness.
So they have so it's got to go through these steps. That's what I'm wanting you to walk me through.
Unless something is challenged under obscenity, which these were. Okay. Under obscenity, it comes straight to the board.
Does not go back to
correct.
the committee, does
no.
Not. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Dr. Chastain, anything to clarify that?
Anything else under general discussion?
Make a motion,
Make a motion.
adjourn.
We have a second? We're adjourned.